Welcome to episode 4, Football Club Chairman. Hard Truth by Dara McAnthony. Great to have you all listening, those of you who are listening. Well, the looks of the charts, and I get some updates on that. We're doing very well. We were top 5, top 6 again for podcasts in Great Britain in the last week, which is incredible. Humbling, to be fair. So, another week of isolation, another week of social distancing, another week of headlines, news. The good news, by the looks of it, if you follow obviously the scientists, the news, the headlines, obviously the government's doing their various press conferences, particularly over here in America. It's Easter weekend, and the coronavirus, particularly in America, as much as the death rate's disgusting, it's horrible, the mortality rate's high, the infection rates are down, the intensive care numbers are down, particularly in New York. And they're saying now, obviously, that it's hit its peak in the apex and it's on its way down. And hopefully we're going to defeat this thing. And hopefully more good news is coming. I saw recently in Germany, they obviously are handling this a lot better than a lot of countries, but their football teams are obviously back training. And I'm speaking about football because this relates to me. To see, obviously, again, the medical professionals, the NHS, the people in America under severe pressure. We hope that abates. We hope, as we come down that slope, things improve. And it was great to see, obviously, it was Boris Johnson who was in the ICU, intensive care unit. He's come out. Forget about politics for a second. It doesn't matter whether it was Boris Johnson or Donald Trump. No, you don't want to see anybody go into an ICU during this current time when you see the statistics of people that don't come out of it. So that was good news. And we're all the same. We're all watching the news. We're all reading Twitter. We're looking for the most positive outlook. Well, those of us, a lot of us are. Some of us, obviously, I don't know, in a sick way, are actually, particularly in America, politicizing it and seeing it as a great chance to get rid of you-know-who. So I think for the mass majority of us, we're fed up with the word social distancing. We all want to get back to work eventually. We definitely want normal life to resume. And, as we go into Easter, let's remember those who've lost their lives from this horrible pandemic. But looking now at the TV in my background, and I get like a daily update as well, Italy, Spain, they seem to be coming down. The curve has happened. And they've been hit worse than anything else. The UK, horrible deaths coming out every day. But again, if they're behind everyone else and they're lagging, they should see improvement as well. Here in the USA, it's definitely, you can see it. Florida was meant to be, it was going to get hit big by this, but right now it's being contained, and it looks like, and again, touch wood, we're coming down the hill. There's so many people I feel sorry for, particularly the vulnerable and the old. But I'm also feel sorry for my kids. And I know this thing doesn't really affect young kids, but, I'm watching my kids. Obviously, they've been out of the house for 3.5 weeks, and, they do their homeschooling. They have a new routine. It's not the routine they wanted. I have them in the pool every day for a couple of hours. We obviously watch movies, and it's great from a family perspective. We spend more time together. Not that my wife would probably agree. She'd love to be back on the school run, but I'm good at for them because they're missing that normality of life, of going to school. My son and my youngest would have had 2 graduations coming in a few weeks' time. My eldest 2 were due to go on school trips to the Grand Canyon, and the other one was going down the Florida Keys somewhere, and they were their first big school trips, and things like that. So it's just such a strange time for everyone, and we all want to get out of our houses. We wake up every day hoping that the lockdown is going to be ended, particularly at the end of April. Over here in America, I think we'd all be devastated if this thing's extended till the end of May. So it's cabin fever and climbing the walls. But coming up in the episode today, what am I going to speak about? I'm going to speak about the EFL update that came the other day, where they've given us some instructions to do with our players and training and hopeful estimates and return dates and finishing our season. I'm going to speak about my ideas for the long-term health of football. There's a lot of people speaking about this. There's a lot of journalists writing articles. I'm not trying to say my voice is more important than anybody else's, but I've been in this 14 years. I've been around a long time. I feel my voice can add something to it. I'm going to come up with some plans and ideas I've written out here that I feel will improve our game for the long term, and how we can adjust through this horrible time, particularly financially, so the clubs don't go under and we can keep our employees. So I'm going to go through some of those ideas, and then I'll wrap up with what I've been up to with my family on the movie front. And that'll be my episode 4. So I'll be back after the break. So this week, the EFL obviously released a statement And in it, they made it clear to us they don't want our players back training until I think it's the 16th of May. And they've given us guidance as regards to furloughing of staff, government initiatives. The ultimate aim, obviously, is to get back playing in June. They want us to complete our 9 games, maybe 3 more if you're in the playoffs. They want it all done and dusted in 58 days. They've mentioned the possibility that we will be playing behind closed doors. And they're giving us that guidance, and I think it's the right thing to do. Obviously, there's been criticism. There's the usual people who will say, well, lives are more important than talking about football. And I've mentioned this many times. I understand. I get people. I'm not going to get angry with anyone who gets angry with me about doing a podcast or speaking about football or speaking about jobs and things like that when people are losing their lives. I appreciate that. But I think we're allowed to have the 2 arguments. We're allowed to talk about health and mortality and life. And we're allowed to talk about business, because when the pandemic's over, and it will be over, life has to resume. Businesses have to open. People have to go back to work. Here in America, I think there's 20 odd million people unemployed this week. I'm sure there's going to be millions in the UK and everywhere else worldwide. And what we don't want is a global depression. A global depression could end up taking more lives than the pandemic itself. So you have to have both arguments, debates. We need to get back to work. Now, I don't know whether it's going to be through testing or better guidelines. Look, at the end of the day, we have to listen to the experts. If they tell us to stay indoors for a period of time, we do that. But eventually, there has to be a period of time where we isolate the most vulnerable and continue to look after them until there's more therapeutics and there's a vaccine. And then the rest of us are going to have to go back to work, put masks on, read temperatures, do more testing. But things have to go back to some sort of normality on the work front. Otherwise, we'll have nothing left to go back to by the time we come out of our houses. So that's the big challenge ahead. Hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll get more guidance on that. But from a football perspective, we need a plan. And there's nothing wrong with the EFL coming out with a plan. I know that it's pissed off people. And I know there are a couple of different camps starting to emerge on this whole thing, worried about next season, never mind finishing this season. But for me, I think we get back training by the 16th. I think it's a good plan. They're doing it in Germany. We can do it safely. I think we can play our games in June. We play behind closed doors. I know that's irritating a certain amount of fans. We don't want to see football without fans. But as I've said before, football without football means there's no clubs. So I appreciate fans are going to get irritated. But for most clubs, it's 5 home games we're talking about. 5 home games you might not get to see live, but we're going to do a deal with iFollow. We're going to make it available for season ticket holders. We have to. And we're going to make it available for other fans to purchase a match day ticket and watch. Right now, as I joked the other day, I'm so bored. I've been watching axe throwing on ESPN. That's the only sport I've seen. I don't know how they've allowed that to continue. But give me Peterborough United versus Coventry behind closed doors to watch here from my office in America, and I'll be like a teenager on prom night. I'd be so excited. And I would forget the fact it's an empty stadium. I just want sports. I want football. If it can be done safely, and I think we can do it safely, and if we can keep our players safe and the people who are working on the day around that match, I think it needs to be done. And I think by June it will be done. Many people are saying this is burning out with the weather, and let's hope that's true. And hopefully by then with the testing in place, it'll be a safer environment. I'm still a big firm believer that when we start up again in the next season, which I think will be September onwards, you'll see crowds back. I think life will definitely be back to normal by then. I'm that optimist. I'm that person who sings from that hymn sheet, because I have to be. Because I'd hate to think that we're all still locked up by the end of the summer. I think there'd be like worldwide anarchy if that was the case. So that's what we've got to do. That's the plan in place. We've got to finish up our season. We have contractual obligations. It will be a financial doomsday if we don't finish this season. The integrity of our league would be spoiled. I'm going to talk about the 2 camps, and I'm going to talk about self-preservation, because there's been other chairmen out there obviously giving their own views on social media, and I respect all views. I listen to all views, and I hear where they're coming from. And one of them was making the argument of, well, yes, we'd like to finish the season, but really that's not my priority. My priority is next season and my football club and whether or not we're going to be in existence, and I should hoard my cash. Brilliant. I get it. Self-preservation. If that chairman was first or second in any league, if they were 5th or 6th in any league, they'd have a different argument. Trust me. The fact that they're maybe mid-table, they don't really care one way or another what happens in the 9 games, they have a different perspective. My suggestion to them would be, look, I understand, I'm sympathetic to what you're saying, but hold your horses. There is a league season to finish. There is the integrity of our league. It's 9 games. It can get done in June. My offer and alternative to them would be, if you don't want to finish your 9 games, forfeit your games. Give those results away. So whoever there feels they're safe enough not to go down and they've got no chance of going up, and you don't want to finish in 9 games, just like you've seen in the past when previous clubs have been in trouble and played youth teams and couldn't show up for games, the results were forfeited. So if you don't want to play some of those 9 games or all of those 9 games, forfeit all your results, because that's just the reality. We have to finish our league, and every league's the same. And if we don't, you're going to have to shovel money back to the TV broadcasters. You're going to have to give money back to the Premier League. You're going to have to go down a route. You're going to open up a can of worms you don't open up. So stop arguing about it. Let's stick with EFL's plan. Let's give it everything we've got. If we can get training on the 16th, if we can get back to work, if we can fulfill our fixtures in June, let's just be done with it. What's the problem? Now, the next thing I suggest to the Football League is then we start in September. If we finish by the end of June, start of July, the players will get a few weeks off. We come back for a pre-season in August, and then we start our new season in September the 1st. We're basically talking about a 5-6 week difference if you go back in time. So again, I don't see an issue with what the EFL is suggesting. We're a long way from sorting out lots of things. One of those discussions, obviously, at the moment is with the PFA. PFA have come to the table. The EFL are having those discussions. A deal needs to be made. It's dragged on for too long. I understand Premier League footballers, what they've done for the NHS via Jordan Henderson. Brilliant. Love all of that. But we're talking about the EFL here. We're eating off a different plate. Our crumbs are a lot smaller. And we need our players to understand that without player intervention, without pay deferrals, clubs are going to be even in more serious trouble. I'm going to discuss that in the next segment when I talk about the plans and how we come out of this and then go into the next season after these 9 games are finished. But the PFA and the Football League have to agree to a 50% wage deferral. Right now, we have put off PAYE payments, VAT payments, because we're allowed to. The next thing we need to do is engage with our players, and I've done it with mine already, but the PFA across the board need to agree, and their members, and come up with a template and a documentation to do it, whereby, as of the end of this month, April payday onwards, 50% of all player wages are deferred until football resumes, and then the money that's owed to players will be paid back over a 3, 4, 5 month period. You'll get your money. I've always said this. This isn't a pay cut. This isn't a pay freeze. This is a pay deferment. So football players are number one football creditors. When clubs go into administration, there's issues, there's legal issues. Footballers always still get paid. The guy who sells hot dogs on the street might not get paid, but footballers always get 100% of their money. And I know they want to do something. I know my players want to do something. And I think 50% is the right course of action. Right now, there is no football. There is no football income. There is no gate receipts. There could possibly be football without gate receipts in June. So we have to plan for that accordingly. And then we have to work whatever is owed into the next year's budget and next season when we start that. So I would implore the PFA and the EFL to cut the meetings out, have one more meeting, don't leave the room until you've got a deal, or don't leave your Zoom call until you've got a deal. So I'm hoping that Gordon Taylor and the PFA right now are putting across the points to all of their members. By the time they re-engage, whether it be, I think, Monday or Tuesday after Easter, they come to a deal. And we get notified by Wednesday. This is what all the players have agreed to. I think if we can go down that route together, all in this as one, we can come out of this strong. And players will be looked at in a way of they've done their bit for what's going on. So again, I commend all the footballers out there, particularly the wealthy ones in the Premier League who are doing what they're doing for the NHS. My club, we've furloughed staff. Of course, we've had to. We haven't furloughed any football players. We furloughed our staff, but we're making up the 20% difference from the 80% that the furlough brings. Nobody's going to lose their jobs. I don't want to furlough my footballers. I want to go down the route of pay deferment. Furloughing players. We're trying to run a very professional ship whereby we still have our manager, sports scientists, basically operating day to day, keeping our players semi-fit. The EFL have told us, stand down your players and give them a break. So we're giving them a 2-week break. Then they're going to come back into a type of mini pre-season from home. And then we'll have a proper pre-season then May 16th when we report back. And we'll hopefully have a couple of behind closed door matches against a couple of other clubs we've already played this season to get us warmed up and ready for when we have to play these games in 58 days. So I think we can get it done. I think there's no harm in planning. I hate the people who turn around and say we shouldn't be having these discussions right now. Yes, things change. Yes, those dates could change, but there's no harm in having a template and an idea and a pathway to making it happen. And again, I reiterate and I repeat to the people who are in relegation zones, to the people who've got nothing left to play for, I understand where you're coming from and why you want the 9 games avoided. I understand why you want to worry about next season. When I say I understand it, I don't agree with it. And God's honest truth, if my club were in a relegation zone or I had nothing left to play for, the type of person I am, and I've been in football a long time, I would still want to finish the season because there's so many other football clubs that this affects. So if we're meant to be in this together, let's do the right thing. Let's stop all the moaning about it. Let's stop worrying about next season once we have a plan in place for next season, and let's get these 9 games finished. And then we can move on and we can stop all the bitter chat about it. But at the same time, I reiterate, I respect everyone's right of opinion, and I have no problem with people voicing their opinion on it. I just wish there were less articles written about it. I just want us as an EFL to collectively come together, finalise the plan, get this season finished, get our players on side, and come out of this strong. In the next segment, I'm going to talk about my ideas for the long-term health of the game and what I think we need to do when we start talking about resetting football for when next season, the season 2021, would start. Be back after the break. Okay, so what is the true cost of the shutdown to football clubs? What is the financial implications of what's going on at the moment? Not a lot of people have delved into the figures, so I want to throw out some figures to give you an idea of what we're up against as a normal football club right now. As you know, most football clubs, cash flow is key. Cash flow is crucial, as are all businesses. But, we obviously have our payments coming in and our payments going out. To give you an idea and to get to a figure, that's something all clubs have to get to, where we look at some sort of a relief package for football. When I say a relief package, money that will be given, that will be paid back. We're not going to be sponging this money or taking money from nothing. So give you an idea, Peterborough. The 5 home games we had left in the season, the estimation for us is going to be about 125 to 140 grand in lost revenue. That would be without fans at the games. If you then take into effect some iFollow figures, if people really buy into the iFollow system and we get people buying, potentially we could offset that down where we might get 70, 80, 90 grand in revenue. So the true loss there could be about 100 grand. Season ticket cash flow depending on the club. We obviously sell our season tickets in March, April and May. We usually budget for about £1 million in season ticket revenue. That's down by half at the moment. Our fans have been brilliant. They're still pushing through. I expect them to still push through. But if you take it right now, we're probably looking at about 400 grand, more or less. We're going to lose that. Well, not lose because we'll get it back eventually when the new season is obviously scheduled and put on the calendar. So that with the 5 home games, there's about 100 grand. Merchandise, sponsors, all the other bits and pieces. You're probably talking about £1 million minimum cash flow wise. 50% of that's probably gone forever. You're going to look at people who owe you sponsorship money. If their businesses go out of business, you're not going to get the money paid. Those who do owe us money, they will pay us eventually. We're probably not going to get all of it right now this month or when it's due. Merchandise, people in your club shop, your catering, all those things. That's for us in League One. I don't know about the majority. You definitely couldn't put your Sunderlands in that bracket, or maybe your Portsmouths in that bracket. They're on a whole different scale. So I would imagine their hurts a lot more than ours. So ours is a big wound. It's not a gaping wound, but it's a big wound and the wound needs to be repaired. Other clubs would be the same. So then you look at all the stuff you're deferring, the PAYE, the VAT deferrals, and your wage deferrals. Eventually, that's going to have to be paid back. I estimate for us, it's probably going to be in the region of about probably 1.5 million, maxing up at 2 million. That's an avalanche of bills. So if you, let's say the EFL decide September the 1st is when the following season is going to start once our 9 games are done. We know we're reporting back in July, August. We know that avalanche of bills, which is going to be up to say £1.5 million, hopefully near £1 million if you start getting season ticket revenue rolling again. We're going to have a hole of £1 million that we need to pay back, if not 1.5 million. So we're going to need time to pay that back. If that's going to be need to pay straight away in August, we're in trouble, as is every other football club. So agreements are going to have to come into place. That money's probably going to have to be paid over a 4 or 5 month period. That's on top of our already deficit for the new season when that starts. So that, from our perspective, is a massive financial problem. And that's something we need to work on now. And that's why I've come up with ideas here that I think the EFL need to engage in, need to take on board, and need to take into account. Because that's just my club. There'll be clubs maybe possibly smaller than our club, or maybe not as big as that figure-wise, and there'll be clubs that'll be bigger than us who could be talking about £3-4 million in holes. I wouldn't even want to know what the championship hole is, and hopefully League Two will be a lot less. But I think we're all in agreement from just going through the numbers I'm going through here. when the new season does start, and I know other club chairmen have spoke about that and the necessity of making changes in advance, we're going to have serious holes to fill. We're going to need time, and we're definitely going to need help. So what I'm suggesting here is look, the EFL need to come up with a relief package. I've spoke about this previously. I've done some numbers and jiggling around. Another chairman today said 200 million. He's not far wrong, and I completely respect his opinion. The EFL is going to need to raise, in my opinion, probably about 175 million pounds. That's where we're at. And there are many ways they can do this. One I keep talking about is factoring the Sky deal, the 5-year deal that starts next year. You've got PFA, you've got serious amounts of money on account that also can be lent. You've got the FA they can loan from. You've got banks out there. The EFL is an institution based on previous past and everything else. One thing we know when this is all said and done, there's going to be a lot of money available. You're going to have to pay probably high interest rates, but there will be money available. That's just the way the economy in the world works. Capitalists are going to capitalize on the situation. I've already seen special football funds have been sending in, ways of giving you revenue, loan revenue, but you're going to have to pay between 10 and 16% back. Now, if the EFL have clever people behind the scenes, they'll go out and secure this money. The money's probably going to cost anywhere from 5 to 7% to secure. That's what we're all going to have to pay back in interest. If they can get a relief fund together from Rob and Peter to pay Paul, whatever way they get it, you're talking about 170, 175 million pounds. The way I look at this is the League One and League Two clubs are probably going to need about 72 million amongst them. That's 48 clubs. I estimated basically that's 1.5 million pounds each per club. Championship's probably going to have to need another 72 million amongst their 24 clubs, which is over 3 million each. The other 20 million I'm going to speak about in a minute, what that's going to be needed for. But let's talk club per club. So in League One, we know Peterborough United have access to that relief fund that's available of 1.5 million pounds. We know that's going to be accessible when the new season kicks in, season starts in September. We've got that mill and a half in PAYE, wage deferrals, VAT payments, a couple of other bits and pieces that need to be paid, proper football creditor debt. What I'm suggesting is that instead of the EFL loaning that money directly to the clubs, where you might get some charlatans basically taking money out of clubs, not paying those bills, not sticking to a payment plan, all those payments should be made by the EFL on the club's behalf. So Peterborough United owe 1.5 million from September to December in, let's call it coronavirus debt that was accumulated over through all this issue. The EFL would pay it on our behalf, make those scheduled payments, pay the players back, pay the VAT man back, the PAYE back, any other bits and pieces. And we would take on that loan, that 1.5 million pounds. It would be paid back over the 21, 22, 23 and 24 season, roughly 400 grand a year would come out of our budget to pay that back plus the interest. And we would acclimatise and adjust in advance our budgets to make sure we could pay that back. What's that going to do for football clubs? What it's going to do is get us back to square one. As horrible as that sounds, and lots of people aren't going to be able to get back to square one, it will ensure our football club survives this. It will ensure that we have access to funds to pay our debts. It will ensure that we can make those repayments and we can pay the interest on that as well. This relief fund would basically not bail out football clubs. It would pay back all the debt they've accumulated. It would ensure that these clubs would pay it back themselves over the preceding 4 seasons, and it would get us back to a position where we're healthier. Some of the things we're going to have to do around that to adjust as we go forward, and this is what I talk about, resetting football. And Andy Holt's spoken about it, I've spoken about it. We have to start resetting what we're doing. We have to look at ways of making our game more prudent, more fiscally responsible, because football has got out of hand. And if anything, this pandemic's taught us is that, clubs are always on the verge of going out of business, and this could push some over the edge. So a few ideas I've got here. The first thing I start with is the EFL needs to hire a football czar. And a football czar has access to a £20 million fund on top of the 150 that I've spoken about for the clubs to get advances on. This £20 million fund would be for the czar to use. If any clubs go into administration, if any clubs are on the brink of going out of business because of a charlatan owner or a wrong one who runs that football club, the EFL would step in and take over that football club. The football czar would have access to funds. Of course, they wouldn't use all 20 million. Let's take a Bury, for example. They would use a couple of £1 million of those funds to keep the club up and running. The staff keep their jobs, get rid of the previous owner, and find new owners to come in, and they would pay back that money. What it would mean is you would have no clubs going out of business. You'd as owners, to get access to all these loans and bail relief, we'd have to sign up to these new conditions to make sure we run our clubs responsibly. And if we don't, the czar in football can take over the running of our football clubs if we go into administration and try and put our clubs out of business. So that's just one thing. We need a timeline for the return of the new season. If the EFL come out and say September the 1st, so be it. That's the new season. And yes, things can change and the timeline could change down the line. But as long as we have that, we can start budgeting accordingly and bringing some of these new ideas of mine into effect if the EFL or other club chairmen find them interesting. I've said here, the season will start in September. The money that we now have access to will basically pay all those payments back over a 4 or 5 month period. The clubs wouldn't get it paid direct. It would be paid from the emergency fund by the EFL, and it ensures no funny business. Money would be paid back over the preceding 4 seasons, roughly 400 grand a year, including interest. All clubs who activate the loan fund, and this is not every club has to take the loan. Some clubs out there have got seriously rich owners. They don't need help. They don't need to go into the relief fund. They don't need to borrow money to pay back with interest. So they'll do their own thing. But any club who activates the loan fund have to cut their wage bill by a minimum 25% if in the same league next season. That makes us fiscally responsible in the new season. The wage bill stays at that new level until the loan fund pays back. So I'm going to give you an example of that after the break. But these, again, are just some of the ideas I feel are going to make us, fiscally prudent, financially more responsible, and a better EFL when all is said and done, and we've got football back for the fans and for us. So as I reiterated previously, Peterborough United, for example, have a wage bill. Let's say our wage bill, I'm not going to confirm whether this is the real figure or not the real figure, have a plain wage bill of £4 million. If we activate the relief fund, we basically have to agree for the new season, for the season 2021, that wage bill, instead of being £4 million, will have to be 25% less. With players' contracts expiring, with players that we can trade and move in and out, we could do that. So our wage bill is going to come down from 4 million to 2.8 or 2.9 million. That's us being financially responsible and knowing also that we've accessed bail relief money from the fund and we have to cut our cloth accordingly. We know that we've got 400 grand to pay back. We know we've got interest to pay back. So, of course, the biggest area that we can get into to make savings in is going to be our football wage bill. We have to be responsible. So, again, I'm saying if you take that £1.5 million available from the EFL relief fund that I'm talking about, you have to slash your wage bill by 25% for the preceding seasons. That would carry on for 4 years until you've paid the money back. That would be your wage bill. Okay? And that's now, if you pay it back sooner, that changes. Your wage bill can go up and down as you choose, but again, it has to be reasonable. All League One and League Two clubs have to have 23-man squads for the immediate future to stop clubs carrying too many players with bulging wage bills. 25% of those players in your 23-man squad have to be aged under 23 or academy produced. We can introduce a special injury loan system to allow 3 players that in the event that a club is decimated with injuries and they need access to extra players outside of the 23-man squad, that can be made available. But what this is going to encourage us to do is go down using the academies more. It's going to go down giving younger players a chance. It's going to make sure, because obviously it goes without saying, players in that gap of 17 to 23 in League One and League Two are on a lot less wages than some of the more experienced players who are on bigger money. It's going to make things more financially responsible. I think we need smaller squads. My club itself was guilty of having too many players. We had at one stage 33 players 2 seasons ago. I think this season we've got 24, 25 players on contract. So it's really important that we bring in a proper squad number and cut down on the squad number, on the amount of players you're allowed to employ as a football club, so that you don't have bulging wage bills and growing wage bills. We need to get our wages under control, and this is a great way to do it. The loan market has to be fixed. I've said it before. This is now the time to throw this through. Instead of clubs loaning us players and making us pay 11 months' wages when they only play for 9, we need to enforce rules, simple rules to follow. 9-month loan periods. Maximum salary amount in League One and League Two. In other words, any player loaned to a League Two club, it's 750 quid a week you pay in wages. In League One, it would be £1,200 a week. That is the maximum. Some clubs at the moment, including us being guilty of this, are paying 4 and 5 grand a week in loan fees. We're paying full Premier League wages for youngsters. It's wrong. It's abhorrent. It shouldn't be done. This pandemic's taught us one thing is that overpaying for things is just not the right way to be. It's not financially responsible. We need to get the loan system under control. and maybe maximise the amount of loans each club can have. So salary cap has to be explored. I've said it for a long time. I love the NFL in America. I love the way they do things. I love the way it's a level playing field. I love the way they run things as a business. All the clubs as one ownership, run it as a business, and have a salary cap. I think League One and League Two, I can't speak for the Championship as I'm not in the Championship. In 9 games' time, hopefully I am, or we are as a club. But right now, I cannot speak for that. I can only speak for League One and League Two. We need a salary cap. And my ideas will be based on turnover. Salary management protocol is great. Some people can get around it. We need to close the loopholes. But I would suggest right now, as an example, any football club, and there's quite a few in League One and League Two, with a £4 million turnover as a business, have a salary cap of £1 million for playing wages. Only players, not management, not staff, only players. So you only get, there's some clubs really well run. Accrington and Stanley, Andy Holt runs a brilliant ship. I think his wage bill is about 1.5, 1.6 million. He's a guy who never put his club in jeopardy, and he runs a really tight ship. So again, I would say any club with that turnover of 4 million and under, we have a wage cap at £1 million. If you go up 4 to 8 million, the wage cap will go up from 1.5 to £2 million. 8 to 10 million would be 3 mil max. And then your clubs who are in the 10, 15 million bracket, your Sunderlands, your Portsmouths, your bigger clubs that have dropped down in the past, like Leeds, you would have a wage cap of £5 million. Now, we get 2 seasons to adjust to these new rules, because people are going to say you've got contracts carrying over. You're absolutely right. To get this in place, you as a club from this next season onwards, when the season resets in September, you would basically have 2 seasons to get your wage cap in place. That gives us more than enough time with players' contracts expiring, new signings we make, to fiscally, financially, prudently plan that we get our turnover and we get our wage cap, salary cap under control. It needs to be forced home now. If people are going to sign up to this relief fund and they're going to be borrowing money, the least we can ask is football clubs do things the right way. And I think the salary cap now has to finally be pushed through. We all signed a treaty to insist players now pay agents themselves. No bending the rules, or anyone who flaunts it gets a 12-month suspension and bringing players into football clubs. So we all know the players, it's usually 5% of the agent. Football clubs, 99% of them end up paying that. Players don't pay it. In every sports around the world, particularly in America, the fee to the agent comes out of the player's salary. The value of the contract's added up over X amount of time, and then the percentage is paid from that to the agent. We have to start enforcing those rules. I'm sorry to have a go at agents again, but there's far too many agents who are in 10 and 15%, because there's so many ways to bend that curve, and there's so many ways to go around the corner and pay agents without getting in trouble for doing it. So we have to come together collectively and agree these rules in place. The final thing I've said here is that having a football czar who works not independently of football clubs, but still on behalf of the EFL, this is somebody who's had experience working in football clubs. This is somebody preferably, possibly even an ex-player, an ex-director of football who's dealt with agents, who knows the intricacies of running football clubs. That person is an important role. That person's job is to ensure no football club will go out of business. And I think we need to sign up to ensure there's no more berries in the world that are going to go under. We know from this pandemic and what's going to come afterwards that if we don't have the relief fund, if we don't bring serious, drastic changes into place, there are going to be a lot of clubs gone in the next 24 months. It might not happen straight away. They'll try and extend it as long as they can. But I would say within the following 12 months, you're going to have a lot of football clubs gone. Can't have that happen anymore. Now's the time to bring these changes in. Now's the time for Rick Parry and the EFL to listen to owners like myself who've been around a long time and to engage with us. I've been saying these things for a long time. Andy Holt's another person who's been saying things. There's great owners in League Two. Robbie Cowlin at Colchester. He's set up a forum for owners to talk amongst themselves. There's other people who've been in football 25, 30 years. You know, I would love a phone call. I haven't had one phone call from anyone from the EFL. I know they speak to my CEO, but not once with the ideas I've put forward, the emails, the social media threads, speaking publicly on whether it be Talk Sport or Sky Sports. Have I ever had anyone from the EFL say, you know what, Dara, you've been around a long time. You're a business guy. You got your head screwed on. You know, we wouldn't call you old or young, but you know what we'd love to do? We'd love you to come in and sit down and talk with the board of directors at the EFL, even take a Zoom call, throw out your ideas, throw things at you. You've negotiated deals in the past, and people see my record in the transfer market. They know I'm a good negotiator, and pick my brains. I'm not trying to blow smoke up my own ass, but I have been around a long time, and it would be nice to be heard from those in power. So I do it via a podcast. I hope they're listening. I hope to take some of these ideas on board. I hope all of these ideas have made sense to everybody, because this is a way from, for us as a football family, as we keep getting called, to basically get healthier, to basically come out of this, not iller, but healthier. In a time when we're losing so many people, what we don't want to see is football clubs getting lost. We don't want to see employees losing jobs. We don't want to see fans heartbroken from losing their football clubs. So now is the time for change. Now is the time to drive the change. Sorry if I went on a little bit too much about my football relief fund idea, but I really believe in this, and I think this is something that will make us collectively stronger together as a football family. In the last segment of this, I'm going to speak about what I've been doing with the kids movie-wise. I hope all the football stuff's been of interest to you. Anyone has any other ideas, I'd love to see you share them on social media. It's not just me and Andy out there talking about stuff. We hope that our other football club owners and directors do the same. Thank you. So I've said it previously, I've been watching movies with my kids. And obviously it's great, this time has allowed you to spend a lot more time with your family, which has been a godsend. This week, our family movies of choice, we watched Taken with Liam Neeson, one of my favourite movies. So I've been jostling with my kids after we watched the movie. They all loved it. I sent them a voice audio because obviously I've got that Irish accent. And on the voice audio, I've said, I've got a particular set of skills. I will find you. I will hurt you. I will kill you. So, and obviously they're loving all of that. So that's my little bit of family time I've been having. I think tonight we're watching Trolls, which is being released direct from the cinema onto iTunes. So that's what we're going to watch tonight. Someone threw up a suggestion, Field of Dreams, which I'm really, really looking forward to watching with them. One of my favourite classics from the 80s. And I just want to wish everyone a happy Easter. I know a lot of you aren't religious, but obviously I'm a Catholic, and it's Good Friday today. And I know we're not able to go to church and we're not able to go out and celebrate it. My wife's got Easter eggs for the kids, but for those of you indoors and those of you who are feeling a bit down and isolated and everything else, just want to send you all my best and happy Easter and God bless you. And again, I'll say it again and I'll say it over and over. This is going to end soon. We're going to come out of this and we're going to defeat this. We're going to move past it and we're going to get life back to normal. And for those who've lost loved ones, again, God bless you and all thoughts and love with you. Until next time, this is Football Club Chairman, Hard Truth by Darragh MacAnthony, episode 4. I hope you've enjoyed listening. Take care.